introduction to the subject we're going to learn today. I think that there are many things that we grow up with and we have assumptions about that we don't even realize that all they are assumptions. Most people bump into this reality that classification is sometimes a little bit difficult to find out. We'll just use the example. If somebody were to look from a Torah perspective, is a penguin a fish, a bird, or an animal? Okay. I'm sure this is what you think about all the time. But at any rate, they have a nice suit. At any rate, what is called a fruit, what is called a vegetable, is the subject which we're going to speak about today. And I think many of us are familiar with that bananas, though we classify them, our fruits, are a hadama. And why? Because that's what it says in the Brachos book. So we believe in the Brachos book. That's wonderful. But probably the Brachos book got it from someplace. And there are different kinds of nuts. Peanuts are hadama. And strawberries, we're going to talk about a little bit if they are an 8. And we come to realize that there's a halachic classification which really is necessary for many different things. And I'll just mention one of the first shurim that I gave here in the shul was in Hilchos Brachos. And I asked the audience, what bracha do you think you make on chocolate-covered raisins? So somebody from the audience answered, I know, you make on them a shahako. So how do you know? So I said, simple. It's sold in the candy aisle. It's not sold in the fruit aisle. So it's mufurish in the supermarket that it's a shahako. So okay, I'll accept that classification. But probably halacha never thought about it in those terms. So we'll have to figure out what the halachic classification is. The subject, the main focus of today's shir, though we'll mention some other things which are astounding, is what bracha is made on a pineapple. Until, I would say about a year ago, everybody knew that a pineapple is adama. Why? Because it comes from like Hawaii or some kind of exotic place, and that's the way grass grows over there or something. I don't know. That's a pineapple's adama, and it's not much of a question. Until about a year ago, I got a phone call from somebody, and he told me that he heard that there's a new shaila on pineapples, that it's orla, and it's forbidden to be eaten. So I asked him, it's a new shaila on old pineapples, or a new genetically engineered pineapple that has a shaila of orla? More or less he said, you're the rabbi, you tell me what I'm asking. So that was the beginning of my trip on the subject of pineapples. And in the course of the last piece of time, there have been many publications that were written, ha'etz hadama, orla, or nothing to do with orla. And as most pineapples in the world are grown, if it is a question of orla, according to many poskim, it would be forbidden to eat pineapples altogether. I would just like to mention, as a beginning thought, in the natural world, if you would start off a pineapple with a seed, it would take at least 3 years to create the pineapple. Nowadays, the way pineapples are grown is a simple way, which is easiest to explain. If one would take the crown of the pineapple off, twist it off, pull off a few layers of leaves, and stick it in the ground, within 15 days, it'll already start to have roots, and out of that will grow a new pineapple. What actually happens, in reality, is on the sides and the bottoms, I'm not going to get involved in the technical aspects, there are like shoots that grow off, and those are pulled off and put into the ground, and that's where pineapples are grown from. Pineapples are not grown from seeds in the commercial market. Almost in the real wild, it's difficult because they don't pollinate within the same zone. It has to be with a different species, but I get involved in the technical aspect. Bottom line, the pineapples which are grown today, they're grown from something that started growing on a different plant. It transplants itself. Listen carefully to what I'm saying, because what I'm saying makes absolutely no sense to you. So listen carefully, and you can check it up. I did a lot of reading on this. After the first pineapple, which grows, if you look at the pictures, on the top of the plant, there are no branches that pineapples grow out of. The stump, the trunk, on the crown of the trunk grows the pineapple. It's harvested, and that trunk will never produce another pineapple. The end, almost. What will happen, can happen, and many times does happen, though not usually, because it's not productive. One of these shoots will grow out of the side, and it will, in my opinion, be a parasite on the trunk that it's on, and it will grow and also produce one pineapple on the top. It's possible, but almost never done, that again, a shoot can grow out of the secondary one, and you'll get the third pineapple from the original thing. Aside from what I just told you is astounding, there's something else that happens. Those who got the pictures on the email, what happens is as follows. The secondary ones in many of the different species grow out of the bottom. When the first fruit is ripening, its roots become weak and it starts to fall over. That branch, which gives weight to one side, causes it to fall to that side. When that branch sits on the ground, it will create its own root system and grow simultaneously out of the original trunk, and also create its own root system, and eventually, which seems to me, I'm not 1,000% convinced of this, that the original one becomes obsolete and it lives on its own altogether. Okay? Now, just to keep your head spinning about the facts, we're going to learn a Gemara that speaks about things which don't only have one season, they have multiple seasons. In the world that we live, there are seasons, and Ko'es Chayo L'Soro Ben. You get to the same point, and the things bloom at one season, they're harvested at another season. There's a cycle that happens. I tried to check this out, I wasn't successful. It seems to me that these progressive fruits are linear. They're not circular. It has nothing to do with what season it is. It grows, flowers, turns into a fruit. So you do not have a perennial system at all. This is very important when you learn the Gemara, which this thing starts off with. It's very important to keep that in mind. Does this have anything to do with the Gemara is talking about? It has nothing to do with the Gemara is talking about. It's not so simple. In short, we have some kind of a tree, maybe, that does not behave like trees are supposed to behave. It's lacking many of the characteristics, and yet it has, as we will see, many of the halachic characteristics of a tree, and therefore this is a subject of great debate today. Enjoy, and Mitzvah Hashem will fill you in a short time. Okay. I would like to mention before we start that this evening Limud is being sponsored by Shimon Young. It's also a scene which he's going to make in Mitzvah Hashem before we move to the other room. And there's also an anonymous sponsor. I'd like to thank them very much. And I believe that they were zeichet to have an unbelievable amount of limud Torah, that Shekadosh Baruch Hu should help them, that the Divrei Torah should be arevim b'fihem, they should have nachas and gesund in their families. Amen. In discussions with people from the Vad, is to the point of this series of shiurim, there were many ideas which were set forth, and one of them was a challenge which I am not up to dealing with, but because those words were mentioned, I feel that this year will give an insight into something which is unexplainable in the world of halacha. I was asked, maybe you'll teach us, so how do you paskin a shayla? I'm still fumbling with that question myself, because there are a myriad of details in the kaleidoscope which affect how halacha is determined. The sugya which we are discussing, the pineapple, has forerunners to it in history. The latest of the forerunners is the papaya plant. Before that is the chatzil, the eggplant. I would like to start with an approach which probably some people would think is unorthodox. At the end of the second page, the Pirkei Yosef quotes earlier sources that are baffled. How could one eat eggplant? And those who got the last email which there was that had a picture of an eggplant tree, which was sent to you, right? An eggplant tree, would see on that picture the trunk, the givol. I don't want to use the word right now that I'm not sure which is the best for everybody. Will see that it actually looks even woody. Well, it's not in this. It was in a separate email. All right. At any rate, if you look at the eggplant, it looks by far more tree-like than the pineapple, which many of you have seen what it looks like. And the early Achrayim came to conclusion, no, maybe it's mutter to eat. This eggplant starts off as a sweet fruit, and as the years go by, it becomes more bitter and less desired. And therefore, it's not on the market after it's already arla, after 3 years. No, a suffix, the halacha is suffix arla chutz la'aretz is mutter, so the people ate it. Then the person says, I came to Eretz Yisrael, and I came to Tzvas, where the Gedolei HaMekubalim were over there, and I see them chomping away. And I quote, V'kulam oichlim oisai. Everybody's eating this, af de machmirim bekama mine chomras. These people which are machmer, right and left, they're just trampling on a serious isser, or something to raisa. And I checked it out, and then I found out that the Arizal's Talmud of Chaim Vital, he also ate eggplant. And then at the end of the piece, I found that Arizal himself ate eggplant. And I don't see that there's any clarity to say that it's mutter. If we learn the sources of Tosfos, the Rush, there's no leg to stand on. And he says, I found the Maram al-Shech, he also allows one to eat this. And he says as for, he says that Shekol Ilon Oisa Peros B'chol Shana Hoylech Umashbiach, the trees consistently improve, and this has a decline after the first year, and that makes it into a yerek. If somebody would come to me and tell me, I have an idea. It doesn't sound very tree-like because it has a decline in its size and texture and taste. So let's skip Orla. So I'll say, you have a Rashi, a Tosfos, a Rosh, a Mishnah Brura. Where are you coming from? This was accepted. How could that be accepted? I will mention that this week I was in the store and I was purchasing a chatzil and I was thinking about, should I be doing this? Wouldn't it be nice to be together with Darizo? So is it just that we have reverence for the Gedolei Yisrael? I'll just add that Rav Vosner, in his tshuva on the subject, on the global subject, he's bothered by this question that I'm asking you, and therefore he takes on a very strong chumradika approach. Because, as they say, en basar, there isn't really, from the technical halachic subject, there isn't enough something to really rely on. I'm going to read to you a Chazon Ish. If you think that the Ramalshich is interesting, I'm going to give you basis. Now this basis is only marginally helpful. You have to know what to do with it. The Yerushalmi says as follows. We learned in Maasros, Es sha'ola migezoi min ilon. That which rises from the trunk, that is a ilon. Misharashov, if it rises from the root, then it is a yerek. Now, if you look at the pictures, there's a picture of a cabbage. Take a look at the cabbage. In that picture, you will notice that it has a prominent bottom. I don't want to use a word because I don't want to put it into the fruit or the vegetable name, but it has a prominent stick. It looks about this thick, and that we know, cabbage, as far as I know, nobody has challenged. We'll see that there is actually a discussion in the Gemara about a cabbage, if maybe it should be an eitz, and we will understand it after what we learned today. Ubi Yishal Visham, Upirish Agra, Deloy Nemar Simon, Ella B'Makom Sheyesh Listapik. What do I need simonim for? When I'm not sure what the thing is, so I need a simon. Aval Bivada Yerek, something which is obviously a vegetable, Av Sha'oila Migizoy Harei Yerek. If it grows tree-like, I don't care. So this Gemara which we have, the whole subject which you were learning today, was only discussing something which is questionable. If there is no question, the Gemara is not relevant to the produce that you're discussing. But the problem is, so what is obviously a vegetable and what isn't obviously a vegetable? We just moved the question from one place to the other. But we have accomplished that we have a key. That what we will find in the Achronim, new ideas which tell us that this is the domain of the vegetable, and therefore it's not orla, or it's a bar pri adama, or it's not kalayim. We have a basis, we have a Yerushalmi that says all of the discussion is when you have a suffix. When you don't have a suffix, then you follow your nose. The problem is you have to stick your nose in the right place. How do we find out where it is that we decide what is called a vegetable and what isn't? I want to just mention something. This discussion, I said, this is a heated debate going on nowadays. Somebody who is on the naysayers, I met with him yesterday, and I showed him a picture of the pineapple tree, and I said, tell me, did you ever see a tree that looks like this? So he says to me, what do you mean? It has a hard bark. And he starts giving me all different kinds of simonim of what a tree is. I said, just answer my question. Did you ever see a tree that looks like this? He said, what do you mean? I said, do you know what a tree looks like? So he really was like, not sure he should answer the question. So I told him a tree has roots under the ground. Then there is a trunk. And after a while of the trunk, it has branches and leaves. Trees do not have leaves growing out from the bottom. This looks like a potted plant that you buy at somewhere with a green thumb. This doesn't look like a tree. She said, but it has. I said, I didn't ask you. I asked you a question. What does it look like? Does the question start according to the Yerushalmi, or it doesn't start according to the Yerushalmi? This is a key. One of the keys that are involved. And here we have all these Rishonim which say clearly that it should be AIDS. They're not talking about something which is going to be a vegetable. Do we know that it's a vegetable or not? We're going to have to prove that. Now I just set forth work for myself that I'm going to have to prove what this is that's going on. This is one piece. The Marsham takes on this idea that things which get worse as they go on in life, it doesn't have to do with just the first 3 or 4 years, as the Chazon Ish says. It says something which is going down, declining, that is a sign that it's a yerek, and therefore, in this case of Chatzilim, they weren't speaking about pineapples. Pineapples is a new issue. It wasn't around in those days. They didn't have the 50th state yet. So they didn't discuss the pineapple. They said that therefore it's not a problem of Orla or Kalayim. I would like to tell you something which is amazing. If you look at the pictures, there's a picture which is hard to understand if you don't know what I'm talking about. I've seen these suckers that grow out of these plants, that grow root systems on them. I've seen them pulled off the main trunk with roots on them already. In other words, the secondary branch is rooted, not only attached, it is rooted, what's called in English a parasite. It is rooted onto the trunk of the first one. Is that an extension? Or is that something new? Here we have another question, and this picture, for those of you who have seen the pictures, I don't know where it is. It used to be here. This picture over here, I don't know which. This white thing, that picture, yeah. Okay, that picture, whatever, you can show it around. You see on the bottom one, roots inside the trunk. Now we're all aware that in a regular tree, there's what I call the plumbing of the tree. That's all that is piping, that's all installatia that's inside a tree going out to the branches. But these are the roots which are actually there. And that's another reason why, even if it would be a tree, possibly, what actually is going on is that you have a tree going on another tree. And that is not called something which lasts. Something which lasts, we mentioned in the shir, in the beginning of the shir before we started to learn. The Gemara says that you take off the pri, it will reproduce another fruit. What reproduces another fruit? The original tree or the secondary tree? One of the questions that have to be asked, and this is discussed, I'm just bringing this to your attention. There are two trees which defy our classical understanding of trees that come to mind. One is a sabra tree, which you have that the fruit grows just on the ridge or the ridges of the cactus plant, okay, which is not normal. They also have a tree called a date tree. A date tree looks similar to the tree that we're talking about, and where the fruit grew last year, it will never grow again. It just grows haut koma, and on the haut koma, it grows again. Time doesn't allow me to go into explaining why this does not contradict the hypothesis that I set down over here. Another nikuda that shows that the growth over here is linear, not circular, which we discussed beforehand, is that all trees have rings which signify each year's growth, the new spurt. These do not have rings, and my point is, the reason why is because it's continual growth, not circular growth, and the main idea which the Paiskim say, our contemporary, our original source Paiskim is, it has to regrow, and this is not regrowing, this is just continuing growing. You're spitting out just a longer reel of yarn, but it's not something new happening. Now I would like to just read. It's not the Ridvaz, it's not the Birkei Yosef, it's not the Marsham, not the Chazon Ish that are going off. Chayodom, all the Paiskim discuss ideas which are not mentioned in the Rishonim. And I would just like to share with you at least one line, Chayodom, which will help us understand what's going on. Go over here, Zion. When the two Meraglim came to Eretz Yisrael, they were hid in the Atzei Apishtam. Flax is not wood. Why is it called Atzei Apishtam? As the Gemara which you read, Chitim doesn't seem like a tree. So why is it called an Eitz? Says the Chayodom. When you cut off these things from their source, the shaft becomes wood-like. It's never eitzi live. It's eitzi when it dies. And he goes on to say, and others explain, the trees that its bark grows and its trunk becomes hardened, that's because it lives through seasons and cycles. The stiffness has to do with that idea. The Paiskim, when they discuss strawberries, different kinds of thickets, brush that have tree-like conditions, discusses them in general for Hilchas Brachas. In Hilchas Brachas, we have to have a Pri Ha'etz, and the Pri Ha'etz demands that not only the fruit be prominent, but the tree be prominent. If one looks carefully, and I just want to detract some of the Paiskim in regard to this question, quote the Shulchan Aruch Harav in Hilchas Brachas, which he discusses this idea, which I think it's on the sheet, the original sheet, the sheet of the Magen Avram. The Magen Avram says, it has to grow fruit. Me'oisoi anaf atzmoi. Obviously, though we discussed the pineapple, it doesn't grow out of the oisa anaf atzmoi. Even you'll say it's a continuation, but it's not oisa anaf atzmoi. And the Tila LeDavid, when he explains this Magen Avram, just read what it says. Mashra the boy gam ha'anaf yishar b'choref. He learns like those Paiskim that it's not enough that you should have a stump. The branch has to be around the choref. U'kafi anira. And something which falls down, and you don't have Anaf Atzmoi, even though it's growing from the same stump, according to many Rishonim, as you learned in Taisus, that's enough for it to be an eitz. That's not enough for it to be an eitz. In my opinion, all this is only relevant when you're speaking about Hilchas Birchas HaPeiros. When you're speaking about Orla, you're speaking about botany. You're speaking about the way that it grows, the nature that it grows. You're not only speaking about prominence of the tree or the fruit. When we speak about Kalayim, according to some of the Paiskim, we're speaking about the way that it appears and the way that it interacts. Not necessarily is that either the same halachic parameters as it would be. Orla is the one that really discusses the brass tacks of what is this fruit. In short, in summation. The way that the pineapple grows, and the accepted opinion of most of the Paiskim, I would say the lion's share of most of the Paiskim, I've seen written from the people from the Edachredis, and Mafrati. I've written extensively on the subject in the last 6 months. Most of the Paiskim, the question doesn't exist. To say, I'm just going to mention, to say that one should not be able to eat pineapple, according to many, this is also machlokes, one has to, aside from saying that maybe it's an eitz, he has to say it's vaday an eitz. Because according to many paiskim, Safik Orla, which comes from Chutz La'aretz, is mutter. There's a machlokes in the paiskim, if a sveika dedina, means to say the halachic, you have a halachic Safik if it's Orla. You know how many years old it is. Just not sure of the halachic status of it, whether it's Orla or not. That would be mutter. To say that it's usser, one has to say that it's not even a suffix, it's a vaday eitz. It seems to me, this is just like a tip of the iceberg, it seems to me that it's pretty clear that the question is rather small. And valid is what to rely on, the daiti b'shufit is what to rely on, at least my research up until now is pretty much concurs with the paiskim that it's permissible to eat, because not only, in my opinion, does it look and act like a yerek, but even it has, according to many paiskim, the halachic characteristics that are necessary for it not to be a tree. I will just say that in the research that I've done, the physical research which I've done, not the halachic research, I found an unbelievable amount of steers amongst the experts. Inasmuch as when the trees fall, if they have to fall, what happens to the root systems. So Vada, it's hard to say something conclusive when I've seen extensively by professionals things which contradict one contradict the other, and when I look at the pictures, I see different sizes, different colors, and I'm not exactly sure as to whether all of them are the same. And there's a Chuvas HaRashba which says you can have one min, that if it's grown in the city, it has one halacha because people tend to it one way, and it's grown in the country, it has a different halacha. So therefore one must be careful when paskening the shaila to make sure that you know what you're talking about. We'll just mention that the pineapples that grow here in Eretz Yisrael, all of the branches that grow out from underground, as opposed to the ones that grow in Chutz La'aretz. Another difference between those that grow in Eretz Yisrael and those that grow in Chutz La'aretz is those that grow in Eretz Yisrael are never successful to grow out a secondary crop. So here is an amazing thing. Orlas Chutz La'aretz could be his mutter. Pineapple from Eretz Yisrael, there's more of a svara to say that it's even a yerek. Good night.